So there were newlyweds on an airplane, and the airline had a little mix-up, and the couple were seated separately. So one spouse decided to have a little fun with the new spouse and asked the flight attendant to take a note. And the note said, "I find you very attractive. Will you join me after this flight for something very interesting?" And told the flight attendant to take it to seat 16C. And the flight attendant took the note, and a reply came back along with a Coke. And the reply said, "I'm very flattered, and I thank you so much. I am actually a newlywed. I'm on my honeymoon, so I'm going to have to decline." Well, she just thought that was hilarious. Started laughing, and then after the flight landed, got off the plane and was thanking her husband for the Coke. "Thank you so much for the Coke. I'm just still laughing. It's funny." He said, "I didn't send you a Coke." "Weren't you in 16C? "No, I was in 14C. So, even when things don't turn out exactly the way we plan, sometimes we can get some joy from it anyway. So, this last couple of days, I didn't realize that we were coming up on Valentine's Day. I had Ash Wednesday in my mind, and Ash Wednesday and Valentine's Day are the same day this year. I don't know when that has ever happened, but it's interesting to me. And then Barry sent out the e-blast, and it has full of hearts everywhere. It's just beautiful. Thank you, Barry. It was a beautiful job, lovely. And I thought, ooh, Valentine's Day, I probably ought to shift what I was going to talk about. Meanwhile, Steve has already chosen the music, and then at the last minute, like yesterday, and maybe a little bit on Friday, I need to talk about love, don't I? And Steve, thank you, Steve, so flexible, said, "We'll do what we can. We'll do this. How about this?" Just so flexible. We are so blessed here, aren't we? Thank you, Steve, and all your musicians. And Barry's e-blast, thank you, Barry. So we're sharing the love today. And then so I started thinking about love, and I realized that I'm kind of in alignment with that great philosopher. I've looked at love from both sides now, from give and take, and still somehow it's love's illusions, I recall. I really don't know love at all. So I began to ask myself and to look inside and say, what is love? And I kind of got stuck where our speaker last week was with faith. You recall that? Where you have to kind of strip everything away because it's all coming through the old filters. Do you follow me? Sort of through those old filters. So it's maybe love is like faith, like God, ineffable, indescribable. Once we start to put it in a little box, then it isn't love anymore. So I decided I would go back and look at what the Apostle Paul wrote about love. I've officiated dozens, scores, probably not hundreds, but a lot of weddings. And occasionally, the couple will ask for this one. From Paul's first letter to the Corinthians, chapter 13, love is patient. Love is kind. Love is not envious or boastful or arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice in wrongdoing, but rejoices in the truth. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never ends. So happy Valentine's Day. Approximately 150 million Valentine's Day cards are sent out each year, making Valentine's Day the second most popular card-giving day right after Christmas for most people, particularly in the United States. The truth behind the legends of Saint Valentine, there's probably at least 3 saints who qualify for this. It's kind of murky. The history is really murky. But the one thing they have in common is that they were heroic, they were sympathetic, and they were romantic. So what do we get from Paul's letter? Love is patient. Love is kind. Love rejoices in the truth. I know that the relationships, especially the romantic relationships I've had in the past, could have certainly benefited from a little more patience, a little more kindness, even a little more truth. What about you? Can you think of ways, relationships in your life where you might have benefited from a little more patience, a little more kindness, a little more love? If love is patient, what does that look like? What does patience in a loving relationship feel like, look like? For me, patience is listening. Really listening. In our small group, the Birmingham Compassion Project that meets on Thursday evenings, we were exploring listening skills this past Thursday evening, and one of the participants there said that we speak, especially in the South, much slower than our brains can comprehend. So what happens to distract us from really listening? Any ideas? What's happening right now? Our minds are wandering. Right. Life keeps scrolling behind our eyes. And what do? We say, uh-huh, uh-huh. There's been an interesting commercial on television recently. I don't actually have television, but I stream a few things. And one of these things came up. Maybe it's possible it was online somewhere, maybe not on television, about a new assistant like Alexa, but it has a different name, especially for people like us who are past 50, past 60, approaching 70. And especially for us, so it answers to not just Alexa, but any name that sounds like Alexa. And it is very patient, and it's also programmed to say, uh-huh, uh-huh, when the story just keeps going on and on and on and on. Yes, there's a 12-step group for those of us who go on and on and on. It's on and on and on and on. So patience looks like listening. Our life interferes with listening, doesn't it? What else interferes with listening? We have prejudgments about the person. We don't have any intention of changing our minds to go along with what the other person is talking about. And one of the things that distracts me is that I am internally composing what I'm going to say next. That ever happened to you? Yeah, no, I'm sure it doesn't. But love is patient. Love is kind. Love rejoices in the truth. If love is patient, that looks like listening to me. It's Unity's second principle, isn't it? Remember Gouda? Yes, a couple of weeks ago, the 5 unity principles and the mnemonic to remember those. The second unity principle is what? G-O, for ourselves. That's right, ourselves. We are expressions of spirit, which means that when I am listening to you, I'm listening to God. I'm listening to spirit and expression. What if God were one of us, just a stranger on a bus trying to make his way home? Somebody should write a song. What do you think? There's a unity song. It's in the old Wings of Song hymnal. I behold the Christ in you. Hear the life of God I see. I can see a great peace too. I can see you whole and free. So when we are in conversation and I am listening, one of the things I can continue to remind myself is that you are an expression of spirit and you are worthy of my attention, of my listening. And one of the ways that we can remind ourselves to pay attention is to occasionally say something other than uh-huh, but give some feedback or ask for clarification so that someone that we're talking with knows that we are listening. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love rejoices in the truth. So if love is patient, that also means that I must be patient with me. To not judge myself too harshly when I don't live up to the very high standards, unachievable standards I set for myself. Can anyone relate? Yes. So we set these high standards for ourselves, and then we kick ourselves. And then because we're Unity students, and we know we're not supposed to judge and we're supposed to be gentle with ourselves, we then kick ourselves for kicking ourselves. And it can go. There should be a 12-step group for that one too. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love rejoices in the truth. If love is kind, what does that look like? What does kindness look like? For me, kindness looks like acceptance. It looks like accepting that not everybody thinks like me. Not everybody remembers to use a turn signal. Can anybody relate to that experience? Not everybody thinks like me, has the same values as me. Not everyone is me, and that's the texture of our lives, isn't it? That's okay for us to all be different. A couple of Sundays ago, we sang the song Weave. Now, I didn't consciously choose that so that we could weave our way around 27th place and try to find 13th place, which is not marked anymore. It was last year. And then weave our way to get here today. So congratulations to those of you who managed to do this. And weave us together. We are many textures. We are many colors. We're entwined with one another in one great tapestry. And that's what gives our lives texture, the differences. And so for me, love is kind. Kindness means acceptance, accepting each other. Kindness is compassion. Kindness looks like forgiveness, failing to judge you for not being just like me. One of the things that interfered with some of my relationships in the past were expectations. Most of those expectations not expressed. I just expected you to read my mind. So if I were treating me like this is what I would be thinking, just project all that onto the other person who's completely helpless in the face of that. So yes, I keep my agreements, but what I choose to do, and I don't always do this, but my choice is to get those agreements out in the open and get them expressed so that we each know what to rationally expect from the other. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love rejoices in the truth. If love rejoices in the truth, what does that look like? Rejoicing in the truth means not rejoicing in what may not be the truth, but for me, this looks like Unity's fourth principle, G-O-U-D. What's the D for? Divine, which is about prayer and meditation. And when I take time in affirmative prayer, affirming the truth, when I take time in meditation, then I can remember the truth about me, that I'm whole and complete and okay as I am. I may not be expressing wholeness and completeness at the moment. Got a little something going on here, and that's okay. When those things come up and we're not expressing complete wholeness and completeness, that's okay. That's just a little information for us. Like, okay, this is a place where I need to maybe make a little adjustment in my life and in my understanding. But one of the things we do sometimes is we do what we call metaphysical malpractice on ourselves. That is, we judge ourselves for expressing something less than wholeness and completeness. And I want to encourage each of us to be patient with ourselves, to acknowledge that fourth principle. One of the ways that we practice that fourth principle here at Unity of Birmingham was with our prayer chaplain. Our prayer chaplains are available to pray with you around whatever you would like for us to pray with you. And we are always holding every member and the community itself in the light and love of wholeness. And our chaplains, we're all trained to hold you in that light, to keep confidences, and to pray with you. We're available after our services on Sunday to pray with you personally. And I don't need to know your story in order to hold wholeness for you. I had the opportunity when I was in Unity Seminary to work in the Silent Unity telephone prayer room for several months. What an experience. And one of the trainings that we received there was to hear what the person needs to say. I don't need to hear it, but maybe you need to say it. To hear it and then move quickly to prayer, because we get caught up in our stories, don't we? I need to tell you this whole long history, this whole story about everything that happened for the last 20 years, because that's what's happened now. We don't need the whole thing. We're just going to go to prayer. We're going to hold it in the light, knowing that all is well. You may need to express your experience, and that's okay. Our chaplains are here to move past the experience directly to affirmative prayer. So remember Unity's third principle. You didn't know I was going to skip around, did you? So 3, G-O-U. U is for understanding. We understand that our thoughts and feelings are creating our experience. So the more attention we put on the drama, on the issue, the more that grows and the bigger it gets. The more we resist it, what we resist, what? Persists. Thank you so much. So love rejoices in the truth. A woman was walking through her neighborhood and she saw a sign outside a neighbor's house, and it said, "Talking dog for sale." Well, she couldn't resist that. So she went up to the door, knocked on the door, asked her neighbor, "What do you mean you have a talking dog for sale?" And he says, "Herman, come here." And she hears this, "I'm coming." And here comes a dog walking through. "Herman, tell this woman your story." Herman sighs. "Well, when I was younger, I worked in the Alps rescuing people from avalanches and other snow kinds of things. And then I went on, I served as a military dog in the Middle East. And then I retired. And since then, I've been reading biographies of heroes and that kind of thing." And the woman's just like stunned. And she says, "Why in the world would you want to sell a dog like this?" And he said, "Because he lies. He's never done any of that stuff." Love rejoices in the truth. And laughter is one way to rejoice, is it not? So what is the truth to me? Each of these, love is patient, love is kind, love rejoices in the truth, not just for each other, but also for ourselves. Loving ourselves, being patient with ourselves, being kind to ourselves, seeking and finding the truth for ourselves in prayer and meditation. So how can we close this? Love is patient. We listen. We listen to each other. We listen to ourselves. Love is kind. We accept each other. We accept ourselves. Love rejoices in the truth. We hold each other in wholeness. We hold ourselves in wholeness. So let's close this time with the way we opened, by singing one chorus of "Love is the Only Power." A cappella is fine, or if you want to accompany us, that's okay too. All right? Love is the only power. Love is the only way. Love, love, God's love, how our circle grows. And so it is. Amen.